Hello, hello, hello. Let me get some music on going for you guys. Let's get this show on the road. Let me put on some. Well, we have to like burn all the dread that we have. You know, we gotta burn all that, right? Which is why y'all want me to bully CBR today. All right, boys. We got CBR Avatar with us today. We're gonna be shitting on CBR Avatar with us today. Man, why the hell would they just? So we got a bunch of like videos right here. We got what if Iroh became the Fire Lord, and what if, but there's like also like what if the Avatar took over the world. All right, let's talk about this. All right, I got it ready for y'all. I got it ready. I'm about to get it ready for y'all. I'm about to get it ready. Yeah, there we go. I think... Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's better. Alright. Adjusted. Here we go.
I've got two words for you that should terrify every fan. Evil Avatar. Across both series, we've been lucky enough to have avatars who are morally righteous and tons of fun. It's kind of terrifying to think of how unlucky we could have been, especially...
But isn't like the Avatar supposed to be like bring to save the world and shit? Like what? So like, what would there be like with an Avatar that becomes like evil? And I mean, like, there have been avatars in the past that have really done some questionable acts, but none of them were just, like, flat out, like, evil with what they were trying to do. They were trying to do they were trying to do what they felt was right. But that's probably a discussion for another day. I'll say that, this would have could go into a really weird direction.
Especially if the Avatar was a certain Fire Nation princess. So before we speculate about who could be the most terrifying evil avatar of them all...
There is a dark avatar in Korra CBR. Oh yeah, that's true as well. Shoot, that's true as well. God.
Let's go back and look at some of our favorite heroes with a slightly different perspective. The Avatar is almost always a warrior for truth, justice, and spiritual balance. That means that when they unleash a terrifying display of brutal power, it's usually met with awe and wonder. I mean, as long as you aren't a Fire Nation soldier, that is. Do you guys remember that scene in Book 1 where Aang unleashed the true power of the Avatar state and wiped out an entire army by himself? What am I saying? Of course you do! It was one...
Jeez. I don't know, man. This is gonna be like, wait a minute, hold on a minute.
The true power of the Avatar state and wiped out an entire army by himself? What am I saying? Of course you do!
Yeah.
It was one of the most awesome moments of the last Airbender movie.
Bro, y'all are going to hell for this. Like, really? You bring up this dog shit adaptation? Are you, like, serious right now? Bro, I don't care if you're doing it as a joke, man. Nah, I don't want to see that stupid freaking movie again. Holy crap. Hold on a minute. Let me... whatever. Alright, let's keep going.
Oh man, I almost got through that without laughing. Alright, it was one of the most awesome moments of the early 2000s. Okay, so imagine that same moment, but from the perspective of a Fire Nation soldier. You're part of an army, and it looks like your campaign is going well. Then, all of a sudden, the moon goes crazy, and a giant water monster rampages through the city, taking out all of your friends before ultimately getting you as well.
What does this have to do with the Avatar trying to take over the world? I mean, yeah, I guess this is just, like, talking about, like, I guess this is talking about, like, how, Aang would be, like, the destructive power that Aang has already, but, like, putting it in the perspective of, like, the Fire Nation soldiers and whatever, and like, Aang just being, like, how powerful Aang is in the Avatar state, I don't understand what this relates to, like, the Avatar taking over the world. Why aren't they just, like, going to a story? Don't tell me this is just, like, a fucking, like... Don't tell me that this is a what-if where they're just, like, not really making a story. They're just like weighing everything. Like, what? But even then, none of it. Even if they're doing more of a discussion, it's not really framed that well. At least I don't think.
Aang was a hero that day, sure, but he was also kind of the monster from Cloverfield a little bit. It's lucky for the world that Aang was so nice, because it'd be like 100 years before they'd make giant Pacific Rim-style robots that could fight that kind of monster. Aang also ends the series by coming up with an ingenious way of dealing with Phoenix King Ozai. Instead of taking him out like everyone wanted him to, Aang used the Avatar state to remove his bending forever. This was seen as a tremendous victory that established that Aang would never have to change who he is at his core to save the world. Only this tech.
By the way, I have one thing I gotta say. Aang was like, I've never killed anybody before. And, like, he forgets right away that he literally sent fucking Fire Nation soldiers off the cliff when they had to fight at the, Southern Air Temple? It was the Southern, right? Or was it Western? I forgot. I forgot what it was. The one where it was its air temple that was populated by those kids with the mechanic upgrades and shit. But like, I have some problems with that last arc. But I feel like it definitely did communicate well that Aang doesn't want to change who he is and whatever. But like, I don't know. It would be interesting to see what would happen if Aang actually killed Ozai.
Technique would be used to cause great pain a generation later as Amon.
Sage, have you seen? Oh my god. Oh my god.
And the Equalists attempted to remove bending permanently. This same technique is framed as something horrific and vile instead of heroic. It almost makes one wonder if Ozai would have preferred Aang crush him with a boulder. Was it a fate worse than the grave? In The Legend of Korra,
I'm so confused on like what this has to do with what if the Avatar took over the world. I'm so confused.
We see Korra display a tremendous amount of power even by Avatar standards when she goes up against the evil Unavatu. She essentially made a giant spirit projection of herself that was able to overpower one of the greatest spirits in existence.
Yes, this feels like it fits in a power scaling video, not what if the Avatar took over the world. Like, if we're like talking about like feats and shit, yeah, those are just awesome feats and whatever. But why is it in like a video talking about like, what if the Avatar took over the world? Again, even if it's framed as a bit more of a discussion video, it's not really just like discussing what if the Avatar took over the world at all. It just feels like it's talking about the feats so far. Let's see if the video gets a little bit better here.
Sure, this was perhaps her most heroic moment as Avatar, but it also showed that she had the potential for devastating power, the likes of which the world had never seen. In many ways, the technique Korra used was most similar to the deadly Susanoo technique from Naruto, one of the franchise's most frightening forms. It's easy to see how this stunning display of heroism could have filled the world with terror instead of admiration.
Yeah, but you're framing it in like a different way.
She may have been the Bending World's Naruto-style hero, but she could have just as easily been their Madara-style villain. Though, if we'd gotten
how easily though would it have been, to be honest? Like, I feel like the most that Korra's ever gone through was just like her just essentially just shutting down and just like giving up due to the shit that was kind of handed to her. Like, she goes through a lot of shit in Korra in her own series and gets her ass kicked a lot of the time. Is there really...
Scene where Korra took on a huge army of people by herself in a stunning ballet of carnage? That might have been worth it. Perhaps the greatest example of this kind of idea comes from the episode Avatar Day. In that story, Aang is shocked to discover that an entire city of people actively hated the Avatar enough to burn giant models of past avatars to dishonor them. It turns out that they blamed Avatar Kyoshi for the death of their leader decades ago. What's even worse is that Aang is able to channel Kyoshi, who basically offers her defense by saying, "Yup, I was the one who took out Chin the Great. Great."
Well, that's also not taking into account that Chin the Great wasn't really that great of a person.
Way to spend an afternoon. Would highly recommend. Sure, Chin was a despot and Kyoshi was protecting her people. But it's interesting to see how even the seemingly just actions of someone as powerful as the Avatar could be seen as horrific.
What? Well, yeah, no shit. If in different interpretations for like the people that you affect, there when someone like saves somebody else from like a war or shit, even if you're like seen as a hero back home, other people are not gonna view you as such. Like what? Like this is just like freaking real life, like in real life. Even if we want to like talk about like um but I don't really want to get into like real world politics though, so I'm just gonna probably keep my mouth shut with that shit. But like, it's kind of like a reflection of like the real world. If like, even if you're like seen as a hero for like, I don't know, war or something, or trying to end a war or doing a heroic action back home, someone else is gonna see you as a villain or regardless. So I don't know. Did he also call it? Wait, oh my god, you're right. He did call the Susanoo form. I have been so busy trying to look at the Avatar shit. Like I forgot that they called the Susanoo a form. That's not a form.
Every great hero throughout history is someone else's tyrant. So what would it be like if the two greatest tyrants in the Avatar franchise were imbued with the powers of its greatest hero?
What? Huh?
While Fire
Are we
Lord
finally getting to the actual story?
Ozai was technically the big bad of Avatar The Last Airbender, we all know that he wasn't the best or even the scariest villain in the series. No, that honor undoubtedly goes to his daughter, the...
What does this have to do with what if the Avatar took over the world? What?
little evil genius Princess Azula. Despite the fact that she was an emotionally damaged teenager, she was able to conquer cities, win battles without her bending, and very nearly destroyed Aang and the Avatar cycle.
Yes. What does this have to do with one of the Avatars took over the world?
Sure, she was an expert firebender, but her real talent was that devious, albeit fractured mind of hers. So imagine how much damage she could have done to the world if she were the Avatar instead of...
What?! What is this garbage? What is this garbage? This makes no sense! What is going on? Bro, is it even possible for, like, there to have an avatar that's not that's not supposed to be more, at least morally upright, at least? Or, I guess, not a psychopath? Because I don't think that's really a thing. Oh my god.
Aang. For starters, it's doubtful she would have had the same early life that most avatars had. They're supposed to travel the world, learning from various teachers who train them in the way of the four bending styles. If Fire Lord Ozai's daughter would have been the Avatar, it's likely that he would have captured bending masters from around the world to force them to train his daughter. It's easy.
What does this have to do? What is going on right now? I am not sure if she could best Ozai. What proof does she? Oh my god. Oh, okay, I'm out. How would this even happen? Would they kill Aang? Well, yeah, because the next cycle was after fucking Roku was freaking Aang! This makes no sense!
Easy to see a scene where a young Azula threatens her teachers with fire.
And the cycle was frozen for 100 years because Aang was stuck in an iceberg! And also, like, the Avatar is not destined for that shit. What?
For not teaching her secret techniques most benders would be afraid of. I can't really see Azula getting a lot.
So we went from, like, I'm gonna, like, break this down for y'all. We literally went for the first section of this video, just, like, talking about Avatar, the Avatar's feats or whatever, and how, like, their actions are seen differently by other people. Which has nothing to do with the Avatar taking over the world. And now we're debating as to, like, what would happen, well, you know what would happen if Azula was the freaking Avatar? Are y'all on drugs?
out of the healing hands of the water tribes, but bloodbending? You've got to admit, Azula would love bloodbending. The only problem would be that Azula would master the 3 elements only to find herself out of luck with finding an airbending master.
Oh my god, I still can't take
That sort
it.
of thing happens when your grandfather wipes the air nomads out of existence. Even if Azula were to find scrolls or lessons on airbending, it's unlikely that she would ever truly be able to master the art like Aang could. The airbending philosophies of non-violence...
Are we also really, like, repeating what we did with Korra here, by the way? Like, same girl that can't... We got 2 girl protagonists, one can't master freaking airbending for a majority of this, can't master airbending, and then that, and can't... Are we really repeating fucking Korra plot lines here? Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Harmony with the universe don't really seem like Azula's style, although it is likely that she'd be able to master it enough to learn some sort of Darth Vader-esque force choke.
What? Hang on a minute, what?
Style, although it is likely that she'd be able to master it enough to learn some sort of Darth Vader-esque force choke.
Okay, well, usually with airbending, that you're just like sucking the air out of something. I don't think you could really do a choking thing like that. You usually are just like sucking the air out of somebody, not really like choking them. That's how you usually kill. You can use airbending to kill. This is giving me a headache.
You just know that she'd love to make one of her generals gasp and collapse for disappointing her. Now, as far as being the Avatar, Azula would probably do the opposite of her actual job. Instead of bringing peace and balance to the world, she would undoubtedly use her powers to lay waste to the other kingdoms. While avatars like Korra and Aang were genuinely frightened of the...
How does this happen? How does this happen? Tell me! How? How? What are they doing?
Avatar state's power, Azula would likely revel in it. Imagine being the...
You could do a force choke with bloodbending plus airbending. Yeah, but they just say pure airbending, which I don't really know. And also, that would only be able to active at night, at that stage of Avatar. I've heard a drunk guy, it's technically possible. It would be technically possible, but would her bending be advanced enough to do that? Usually, I feel like being able to suck the air of somebody versus like choking them, and putting like the air pressure around a specific point is a lot easier to master in comparison to like, well, you know, the choke thing or whatever. Like, I don't know. I gotta, let's keep going.
The giant water monster Aang became at the end of Book 1, but it was made out of fire and lightning while it decimated the city.
He needed the fucking moon spirit to do that. Like, does the Fire Nation have the equivalent of the moon spirit? Like a sun spirit? Well, they had the dragons and shit, but nearly all of them are extinct. But they don't have a moon spirit. But do they have, like, the equivalent of, like, a moon spirit? I forgot. Excuse me if I'm ignorant on this, but, like, I don't think the Fire Nation has the equivalent of a moon spirit.
City of Ba Sing Se. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the war would be over in like a week. Honestly, Azula's greatest enemy would end up becoming the same as Aang's, her father. While Ozai would love to rest on his daughter's powers while she conquered the globe for him, it's likely that he'd come up with a plan to take her out once she was done. I mean...
Why? Like... Ozai likes usefulness and shit, and even though he's a freaking shithead, he's not going to get rid of somebody just because. And especially if you have someone who's supposed to be the Avatar in your fold, it's better to keep them close rather than just get rid of them.
And this was the guy who declared himself Phoenix King and had special banners and outfits made
and also the only reason why Ozai was was abandoning Azula in the first place was because of her repeated failures and shit going on, whatever. But it's better for him to just I don't know. It's just I mean, Ozai is a shithead, not gonna lie, but this just feels a little bit off.
specifically for the occasion. It's not like he's gonna share the spotlight with his daughter. My guess is that he would likely...
There is Sozin's comet. Yeah, but they don't. But there's not an equivalent of like a moon spirit out there. Like the other moon spirit, literally was in a fit of rage because the other one died.
use Sozin's comet to betray his daughter instead of wiping out the Earth Kingdom.
But that would literally... But he'd still get his ass kicked. Especially if she has... Oh, sorry. Sorry. Wow. This is actually starting to get really confusing.
Incredibly powerful, but if Ozai ordered an entire battalion of comet-powered firebenders to attack her, it's doubtful even the Avatar state could...
No? Like, are we, like, really being real right now? Because, like, are we forgetting the fact that Azula herself would get amped as well with a bending style that she already has control over, and would possibly have better control of her airbending as well in the Avatar state? Actually, would she even have access to it even? That's a discussion for another day. Would she even have access to the Avatar state if she's taken on this, like, dark path? I don't know, it's like, whatever. That's another discussion.
Protector. But this is Azula we're talking about. This was the girl who strolled into Ba Sing Se and outdid Long Feng in the art of subterfuge. That guy spent years crafting a private brainwashing army of spies only for this teenage girl to outsmart him in an afternoon. So, yeah.
Okay, we know that Azula's smart. Again, how is this... I'm so confused, right? I'm starting to get really confused. I guess they're talking about Azula's intelligence feat about outsmarting Ozai, I guess. Which, okay. But, again, I just, like, a lot of this stuff is being preceded by, like, garbage, so I don't know.
I think she'd see Ozai's plan coming. Now, while the Fire Nation would be nearly unstoppable during Sozin's comet,
Azula could probably shut down people's bane like Aang did in canon. That would require her to find that fucking turtle, and I don't think that turtle would give her that ability.
we know that the opposite would be true earlier that year. During the Day of Black Sun, all firebenders lose their bending during the eclipse. It's very likely that Avatar Azula would use this day to utterly...
Yeah, but Amon did it without the turtle. That was, like, years later, when... That was, like... But yeah, that was many years later. At that point in the series, the only way you could really get fucking... that ability was just, like, through the lion turtle.
Conquer the Fire Nation. She'd likely use the Dai Li from her conquered boss.
Oh yeah, that's right. Amon had bloodbending. That's why he was able to do it too. God, I don't know. This is just like... That's what happened. Okay. That's what happened. I forgot about that. Alright. I had to brush up my core in a minute, but like, yeah, if that's the case, then it's just like nail in a coffin. This shit's this is kind of this one is what is still garbage.
To strategically take out valuable Fire Nation assets like her uncle and brother. Then she'd find her father, but she...
According to CBR, she has bloodbending, but would she be able to figure that out? I don't know. And also, bloodbending at that point would need a full moon. At least from what we had seen it at that point in the series. Bloodbending eventually became a lot more advanced as well.
Wouldn't take him out. Not yet, anyway. You know that's not enough style for Azula. She is her father's daughter, after all. No,
Amon did it without bloodbending, but could she do it? Like, bending hadn't even has probably advanced further and further by the time we reach the core timeline. In comparison to what it initially was. I don't know. That's a discussion though I'm open to having, because if she could do that, find a way to do it without the full moon, then she would be basically unstoppable.
She'd likely stage an Agni Kai in front of the entire Fire Nation during Sozin's comet between her and Ozai. She would want to humiliate him in front of all of her people while proving that she was the superior firebender, not just Avatar. Honestly, she'd probably even take Ozai's bending away if she knew the technique. From there,
if she was even given that from the turtle, or had access to blood, or could easily do or she figured out how to do that at night with bloodbending. That's a discussion for another time.
Her Avatar, Fire Lady, Phoenix Queen Azula would likely just deteriorate. She would turn on her allies and enemies and would very likely reduce the entire world to ashes in her miserable paranoia until she passed away alone and miserable. So, yeah.
What, is that really the end?
Yeah, we really dodged a bullet there.
Wait, is that really the end?
He reduced the entire world to ashes in her miserable paranoia until she passed away alone and miserable. So, yeah, we really dodged a bullet there. Now, while
This is so bad.
Azula was the scariest enemy in Avatar: The Last Airbender, the would-be Queen Kuvira was the scariest enemy in The Legend of Korra for completely different reasons. While Azula was a vicious sadist,
Oh no, we're doing this again!
Kuvira was just a brutally efficient tyrant. In her quest to create an Earth empire, Kuvira utilized insane technologies and metal bending so powerful that it made even Toph Beifong look like Sokka. So it is entirely likely that no avatar in the history of avatars would have the mastery over the four elements quite like Kuvira. Like Korra though, mastering the four elements wouldn't be enough for Avatar Kuvira. Assuming she faced the same challenges of the Equalists, Vatu, and the Red Lotus, it's likely Kuvira would have come across powers most people could scarcely imagine. While Korra worked to tame the outbreak of spirits across the world, it's likely that Kuvira would tame them to use later. I mean, this is the same woman who decided to conquer the world with a giant robot. Do you really think she'd draw the line at employing evil spirits to do her bidding? Think.
Oh my fucking god. Again, like, but how would she become the Avatar? The next Avatar in the cycle was a waterbender!
Back on the Avatar franchise and all of the terrifying spirits our heroes came across. Now imagine an army of those same spirits led by Avatar Kuvira to the destruction of Republic City and the world. While Kuvira was able to utilize advanced technology for her empire in the main storyline, I bet her usage of evil spirits would likely drive some away from her. This time, the robot army she employed may have been used against her. While it would be awesome to see a mech army battle enslaved beings from the spirit world, I kind of doubt even that would be enough to hold Avatar Kuvira back. I mean,
oh my fucking god. Azula would not have airbending because if Korra couldn't have the ability to airbend because she couldn't get into the correct state of mind, Azula wouldn't because of that last battles of evidence. Oh, that's true too. Azula has a lot of mental problems. I don't get, man, I literally I'm so freaking confused. It's like, what the hell is going on here?
I mean, I imagine she likely could use her Avatar State enhanced metal bending to create a giant robot of her own to go up against whatever the world could throw her way. In the end, Kuvira's Earth Empire would utterly conquer the world. While Avatar Azula's genius would likely degrade into insanity, I'm pretty sure Avatar Kuvira's Earth Empire would reign supreme. I mean, she might be an evil, spirit-wielding despot, but I imagine her empire would run pretty smoothly. I bet the crime rate in a world guarded by monsters like Ko the Face Stealer would be about 0.
Can I just, like, also, like, say that the Face Stealer is literally one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in my life? I really do not want... That's the one... Bro, forget, like, Dio, forget, Frieza, forget, like, Shigaraki. The last thing I want to encounter in my life is fucking Ko the Face Stealer. That dude's terrifying.
Is it wrong that I kind of want to see that? And there you have it, the alternate world where the Avatar was an evil tyrant instead of a fun-loving hero. Who do you...
But none of that made any sense! God. Alright. Okay. So that was garbage. Oh man. What if Toph was the Avatar? Bro, I'm scared as to how they fucked this up. But like it doesn't first of all, regardless of what top of like this not being possible, Top being Avatar would be kind of cool. But like, I have a bad feeling they'll fuck this up badly, even if we take into the logic of it into account.
What if Toph was the Avatar? Well,
oh my god, this guy's voice. Oh my god. Persona 3, I'd like to play music right now instead of just listening to these videos, but we got another one.
Well, two things could happen. She'd either rise up and become the best avatar in existence by bringing long-lasting peace to the world while barely using the other three elements,
What?
or option two is that she gives in to her Melon Lord side and conquers the world with a metal fist.
What?
Oh, I hope it's the first one. But seriously, Toph is a fan favorite for a reason. So what would the original Avatar show have been about if Toph was the Avatar? Well, let's discuss right now.
I am Melon Lord!
Alright, so in what alternate world could Toph be the Avatar? Well, if we really want to be logical with this, we could say that Sozin's attack on the Air Nation was successful and he ended up wiping out the Air Nation, including the young Aang.
But would Aang not? But how would Aang not? But Aang ran away and was trapped in an iceberg.
R.I.P. And then
You gotta like. Okay, you need more to this. You need more to this. You need to like. I need more information here right now. I need more information, please, because like I'm like trying to figure out like how the fuck like Aang's like still is Aang is dead in this timeline. Am I supposed to assume that he ran away? That he didn't run away? But like why? Why wouldn't he do that? Like, in that time, because we all know the reason why Aang ran away. Why are you, like, not being descriptive about this? This is, like, the one thing you cannot be descriptive about this. Second of all, the next in the cycle after air is water. So you have to get rid of the water avatar as well, from which isn't necessarily impossible considering the fact that the Fire Nation would eliminate a lot of, like, sudden waterbenders and shit. So, maybe, although that was more in, like, recent years in Katara's era, so that wouldn't really work completely unless you were wanting to get rid of Katara or Sokka. And then after that, the next avatar in that cycle could be Toph, theoretically, but none of this makes any fucking sense.
Rava's spirit was passed to the Water Tribe until that avatar's death around 87 or 88 AG, you know.
Hang on a second, though. How who's this water avatar that we're talking about? Because, like, if that person exists, did he succeed in saving the world or not? Because the avatar is supposed to bring balance to the world.
Freak surfing accident. Is it perfect? No, but come on, just drink some cactus juice and eat your cabbage salad and just go with it, okay? So that leaves the door.
I'm not just gonna go with it. There's certain canon.
Is it perfect? No, but come on, just drink some cactus juice and eat your cabbage salad.
I would rather not get drugged.
Then just go with it, okay? So that leaves the door wide open for the only child of the uber-rich Beifong family to become the next Avatar. And I think that's fascinating to think what Toph's childhood would have been like if she was the Avatar. As we know, her parents took Toph's blindness as a major hindrance and sheltered her from the world in order to keep her safe. Of course, you try locking Toph up for an extended period of time and you'll see how tough that can be. Since avatars can take a while to be found and discovered, Toph's childhood would be the same. She'd still run away when she was young, encounter the badger moles, and learn her earthbending from them, using her blindness to her advantage to better see the world around her. And yes, she'd still kick major butt in those Earth Rumble matches.
Wait, but isn't there, like, a notification to, like, who the next avatar is in that cycle? Like, who's, like, what would happen if her parents learned that she was actually the avatar and shit? There's, like, certain things that are, like, also, like, around this age, she probably would learn about her here, but, like, please tell me that people forget this.
But now, this time, there's no Team Avatar to convince her to run away with them. Maybe once her powers start manifesting and everyone realizes she's the Avatar, this would be the catalyst for something big. We know two major things about...
But, like, wait a minute. Would she learn... Someone has to tell her about how that she's the Avatar, right? That's how it was for a while. Bro, these dudes ain't on cactus juice. They on the Kishimoto juice. Oh my god.
Toph's parents. 1, they take their noble status extremely seriously, and 2, her dad looks like Nicolas Cage in animated form. Seriously, once you see it, you can't unsee it, people. But back to the noble status stuff, I imagine they would want to control and do the whole Avatar thing in a proper way and turn it into some kind of formal affair, which wouldn't work for Toph at all, causing her to make the tough decision to run off on her own to find her own way of mastering all 4 elements to stop the Fire Lord. So how would Toph's training go? Well, we'll start with the easy one. First,
Is the Fire Nation still active? What happened with the waterbender? What, like, this is stuff that you need in more parts and in detail. Yeah, I don't care if you have to put in an OC and just, like, figure out what would happen from there or something like that. It would at least make more sense.
I think Toph would gravitate toward fire. Firebending is very aggressive at times, and that would be something Toph responds to. She can be forceful and outspoken when she wants to.
Oh, that's right. But then again, like, but here's my question: are they still at war? And she has to learn the elements right away at 12, or is there no war going on? And are they like, and does she have time? Like, I'm trying to, like, figure this out. Did she learn this at 12, like, around the time she would make that decision or whatever? Or early, or maybe even earlier than that? Or is there something else in between? Because she had to, like, have to learn this at, like, a young age or something due to the impending war. Is there still a war going on? This is what happens when you do this type of bullshit.
It might even come easy to her. She spent her whole life being pent up and locked away thanks to her parents, but with
fire also... Wait, how the fuck is she gonna learn airbending? They're all dead. That's true too.
Firebending, she can unleash all that inner rage we know she can have. But that's the lesson she'd have to master with firebending. As Aang learned, fire is its own living thing and can get out of control relatively easily. Just like a teen who experiences college partying for the first time, fire is its own living thing and can get out of no she can have. But that's the lesson she'd have to master with firebending. As Aang learned, fire is its own living thing and can get out of control life being pent up and locked away thanks to her parents. But with firebending, she can unleash all that inner rage we know she can have. But that's the lesson she'd have to master with firebending. As Aang learned, fire is its own living thing and can get out of control relatively easily. Just like a teen who experiences college partying for the first time after a life of following the rules, it's easy to go a bit overboard. I think Toph's firebending would get out of hand, which would be especially hard for her. She'd realize that although firebending is powerful, it's even harder for her to maintain and control compared to earthbending. This would make her a bit hesitant to use it.
Are we really repeating, like, freaking, like, repeating lessons from Aang, plot lines for Aang? Really?
Next up is waterbending, and
I think Toph would actually be able to, like, control firebending pretty decently, to be honest, and actually would be probably a little bit better with it, because Earth is a lot more controlled and rigid, and Toph can probably do that with firebending as well, while air is a lot more freedom, which is why Aang probably had a little bit of an issue trying to, like, keep that shit a little bit under control and not burn anybody.
I think Toph would find it incredibly soothing after the disastrous firebending.
Yeah, but, like, who's teaching her firebending?
Debacle. She'll learn to listen and feel the water around her and control it much the same way she does with Earth. I mean...
Can that happen? I guess you could feel the vibrations of the water of the earth. I'm so confused.
I could see a scene of Toph standing at a big river and feeling the flow of the water to know what's either upstream or downstream.
But the only reason she was able to do that in the first place was she took the example of the badger moles. Oh my god.
Learning waterbending would calm her down and teach her how to be patient with her bending. Plus, I'd just love to see someone like Katara trying to teach Toph waterbending.
So, but how do they meet? How do they meet, though? Like, how it, like, none of this makes any sense.
I mean, I love Toph, but I don't think she'd make the best student, do you? But even though she can master waterbending, she's still running into the same issue as firebending, where her blindness makes it hard to control water, just like it did with fire. And finally, here comes airbending. Just like how Aang's hardest ability to learn was earth, Toph's hardest ability would be air. For one, all the airbenders are gone at this.
They probably should have mentioned the air debacle before water, considering they're supposed to master them in a specific order. For Toph, it would be earth, fire, air, and then water. Oh yes, that's
point, and she's not exactly able to read scrolls to learn technique. I think the only way for Toph to learn airbending at this point would be for someone like that fancy guru Aang met assisting her. But it's difficult when you don't have someone to actually demonstrate it, which makes it even harder for Toph than it already is. And while Toph may come close to giving up, I think a turning point in her airbending practice could tie everything into place.
But, like, again, like, is she still fighting the Fire Nation at this point? Is there really that much of a need to, like, try to save the world at this point? How are the stakes here? Like, again, you mentioned that there's a waterbender that dies eventually, but, like, what, but does he not accomplish anything? Like, I'm so confused.
Once she stops being hesitant of airbending, Toph would learn how much the world this opens up to her now. As she starts feeling the air, then she can truly feel everything.
Wait, but how does she get airbending? Who teaches her? Who teaches her airbending?
It's like the whole world after this point is unlocked, and she'll learn that mastering airbending will help her control and see all other elements. No longer would she be unable to control her fire because of lack of sight, because she would use her airbending senses to help guide it and use it. Same with waterbending. She would essentially be an avatar who has to constantly use her airbending skills paired with fire and water in order to use them effectively. And although that might sound hard, I have total faith Toph could do that no problem. So after she masters all
This is so bad. This is so bad.
4 elements, what would that mean? Well, an epic final battle, of course. And now, this...
They said the waterbender avatar died in the surfing accident. What the fuck? That's so anticlimactic, it's not even funny. Like, are we really doing this shit?
There's a way to rewrite one of the few mistakes the last Airbender show did. Originally, Toph was helping in the fight on the balloons with Sokka and Suki, but besides using a little metal bending, she wasn't that useful since it was all in the air. But now things have come full circle. She would have to stop the balloons in Ozai basically all from the air, cutting off her earthbending and forcing her to rely on the other 3 elements to fight the Fire Lord.
But how could she see?
As well as take out those big scary balloons. Wouldn't that be so fitting for Avatar Toph? Having her obviously be a master at earthbending, but at the end forcing her to use everything else in order to save the day.
What the fuck is going on?
Hey, sounds perfect to me. Man, I know Avatar Studios will be making new content in the future, but they should definitely follow the MCU's What If show and explore stories like this. Because
I would rather that I hope you don't have any I hope y'all don't have any writing authority on that shit. Holy shit, this is garbage.
Need to see Avatar Toph, don't you? Well, with Toph as the Avatar, fan favorite for Air Nation was Six passed to the Water Tribe, until that Avatar's death around 87 or 88 AG in a freak surfing accident.
Freak surfing. Bro, what the fuck? They actually did say surfing accident. Oh my god, get this shit out of my sight, man. Get this shit out of my sight. Oh my god, this is actually getting worse somehow. I don't know how, but it keeps getting worse. What if Avatar alternate timeline? What if Katara was the Avatar? No, I'm not ready for that. I'm not mentally prepared for that one. I'm not. I'm really not. What if Aang never ran away? 12:10. I don't know if I have enough time for that one. What if the Water Tribe attacked the Air Nomads? What the fuck? Why?
Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. That all changed when the Water Nation attacked.
They're really doing this shit. They're really, really doing this shit.
Wait, that's not right. Hey, this can't be right, can it? Jeez, how much cactus juice was this writer on? Oh, this is another Avatar What If video. Gotcha. Well, we all know the Fire Nation are a bunch of jerks, but what if instead the Water Tribes decided they wanted to take over the world?
How? Do they not know, like, the circumstances in between of, like... Do they have a guy like fucking Sozin or something? Like, what?
Could they have been merciless and strategic enough to take over everything? Would they have a different method of doing it? Well, let's discuss right now. I think waterbending is perceived as one of the most peaceful bending techniques, at least on the surface. Fire is aggressive and passionate, earth is stubborn and unyielding, and yeah, air is made up of literal monks and all, but there's something sinister about a group of all vegetarians, am I right?
Okay.
So from what we saw early on in the last Airbender show, waterbending was relatively peaceful. It was a bending technique that seemed calm and soothing and a little tranquil and seemed to have a focus on healing and defense. And it definitely had more connection with the spirit world and respected the balance of everything. It's no wonder that after the Fire Nation wiped out the air nomads, they were able to pick off the Southern Water Tribe waterbenders relatively easily. But as the last Airbender went on, we learned that waterbenders had a definite dark side. With the introduction of the terrifying bending technique.
Yeah, but, like, that was developed by, how? Or like that that old lady. I forgot her name, but it was developed by that old lady. And like, is that how we're doing this? Like they did get blood. I
known
can't
as
take it
bloodbending
anymore.
or advanced ventriloquism to some, it showed just how dark an evil waterbender could be. The legend of Korra followed that mindset by having 2 waterbending big bads in a row, each offering a unique challenge to the new Team Avatar. Amon was an advanced bloodbender who had the power to block the chi in a person to take away their bending ability, while Unalaq wanted to merge with Vatu during harmonic convergence and bring about a new age of darkness. So, with all that in mind, I want to present to you a fun new what-if theory. What if, instead of the Fire Nation, it was the Water Tribes who enacted a plan to take over the world?
But how?
Sure, on the surface that may seem impossible, but just imagine if they had someone like Amon or Unalaq during the event.
Or how about Sozin?
Of Last Airbender. So let's break down a scenario. Instead of the Fire Nation wiping out the air nomads, it would be a Water Tribe attack instead. Just
okay, but like, who's like leading this shit? Who's at the head of all this? Why is there this type of change? Like, what about Sozin? What about Sozin? Does he not exist at this point? Is there like an alliance between like the Water Tribe and the Fire Nation because they're now evil apparently? Is there something else I'm missing here? Like, what the fuck is going on here?
to give those Water Tribes a fighting chance, let's say that the Water Tribes have a powerful bloodbender like Amon who wants to train other bloodbenders, and also someone like Unalaq who wants to harness the destructive power of spirits. Now, this could be interesting. Sozin had the plan to kill all the air nomads because he knew the Avatar was there. But that wasn't really thinking long term, was it? Rava's spirit would just be reincarnated. And what lucky nation would get the Avatar after the Airbenders? That's right, Waterbenders.
Oh no. Oh no. I can't handle this shit.
Now, if I was leading the Water Tribes to war, I'd start to plan ahead. I would go attack the air nomads, not necessarily to wipe them out, but instead to specifically target the young Avatar, so that we could take him or her out and have him or her play for our team instead.
But Sozin didn't know who the Avatar was and knew that he would be the only person that could stand against his plans. That's why he targeted them in the first place. And why would the Avatar, in any case, want to have to side with the Water Tribe? What the fuck is going on here?
Basically be ensuring that the world's super weapon is on our side, because then it would make the war much easier, don't you think? It would actually be a pretty smart idea for the Water Tribes to attack the Air Nation first. So Let's say everything worked out the same way. The air nomads were mostly wiped out because it was a surprise attack, and the water tribes were able to use both bloodbending and certain spirit attacks to win. Plus,
spirit attacks? You know that moon spirit thing is when they actually make the fruit, is when that moon spirit thing is like a one-time thing, right? When the moon spirit is really pissed off because, I don't know, his other half is gone.
make it a full moon, why not? Aang can still be frozen for 100 years, which would be ironic that he's frozen in water now, but then what type of world would he wake up to? Well, probably not a great one. Over 100 years of training bloodbenders and using their spirit connections to take over the world might even be easier for the water tribes instead of the...
But how did they develop bloodbending? How? That was not developed by anyone except for someone who was stuck in a freaking prison.
Fire Nation. Because if you haven't noticed, most of the world is covered in water. If they were focused, they'd make sure all their major battles happened around water so they'd never lose. First, they'd attack and capture all cities that are waterfront, naturally. But then, to hurt the inland cities more, they'd cut off water supplies from all other rivers and other sources so that those other cities would be forced to surrender.
Via siege?
Plus, if you have a waterbender like Unalaq who's super into spirits, there's another advantage over the dry land.
That shit did not happen until fucking Korra.
Guys, I think the world is in trouble here. And we can still have Aang wake up 100 years later, and even a young Katara and Sokka could find him, but that creates a whole new dynamic. Katara and Sokka can still be good kids who don't approve of the war, but that creates immediate conflict with Aang since the waterbenders wiped out his people.
But, hold on a minute, how the fuck would he know that? Also, Aang would still run away for like the same... Oh my fucking
It would be like
god!
if Aang paired with a firebender in the original show to start the series off. Talk about complicated, right? But it would provide such an interesting backdrop as Aang works with Katara and Sokka, as well as Toph and Zuko, to master all four elements.
But, hold on a minute. What is stopping the Fire Nation from not being bad in this timeline, is my question. Because the reason why the Fire Nation became evil was because of Sozin and his eventual betrayal of Avatar Roku, and then his eventual, like, extinction of the war of the Fire Nation. Does Sozin all of a sudden not exist, and the Fire Nation's actually full of good guys, or there's something else I'm missing here? What the fuck is going on?
And stop the now established singular Water Nation from completely wiping out everything. That scenario sounds fascinating, both in the short term and the long term, because after Aang does...
Hey, Anime Series, do you know that now that Naruto doesn't have Kurama, he now has 25 times his usual chakra? Yeah, Naruto's insane with chakra. I'm not surprised about that.
Eventually defeat the Water Nation and starts to heal the damage done, then there's a new complication. After Aang dies, the next avatar is Korra, the Waterbender. How would the world treat a waterbending avatar after her nation just recently waged war for 100 years? It would...
I mean, that's an interesting conflict, but it's stuck in, like, this garbage.
Change her dynamic with people completely and force her to not only protect the world from evil threats, but also rebuild the image of waterbenders. Man, this started as a what if, but I actually love this idea now. Come on, Avatar Studios. I hope you're listening. Take note.
Please, they should not. They absolutely should not. Like, this is just... I have watched 3 videos of these guys so far with their Avatar what ifs. All of them suck! All of them! You're 0 for free! You're shooting 0 for free right now! What is going on?
You know who would have loved the waterbender takeover? The cabbage merchant. Cabbages are like 90% water or something, so you know where that guy's allegiance is.
I can't take this shit anymore, man. I can't. God! I'll watch this next time. I'm not meant to prepare for this one. nor am I ready for this one either. I'm not meant to prepare for this shit. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is alright. So, I have a lot of opinions about CBR, but this has gotta be one of their worst videos, I think, to date. So, the major problem that I've really been having with CBR What Ifs is that they just really just, like, go off into, like, random nonsense without any consideration for the lore and stuff in between. And, like, another big problem is, like, it also depends on who the fuck is writing their scripts. There are some videos that are actually kind of decent, but that's because the people that are writing their scripts are kind of competent. The other times, most of the time, you're getting people that just spit out random nonsense. And it's starting to actually bother me as to how mediocre some of this shit is, because some of these ideas actually could be really cool if they took a bunch of this shit into account. They did not take into account Toph, but what if Toph is facing off against, like, the against the Fire Nation in this timeline? Also, literally, because also take into account that the waterbender avatar dying in a surfing accident. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? And then with, like, with this latest what if right here with what if the Water Tribe attacking Aero Nomads? There's no consideration as to, like, if the Fire Nation's still a threat or not. Like, do they not have someone like, they literally are using, like, core people and stuff, but realistically, they would need someone like Sozin to start this bullshit in the first place. And, like, you didn't have to even go that far either. And then, with the Avatar, what if the Avatar took over the world? It just became a pile of nonsense that didn't even have a cohesive story at all. Nor was it great as a discussion piece either, if you're looking at it from that perspective, because it just wasn't great at all. So I'm trying to, like, figure out, like, where, like, these types of videos just are going, or what type of direction these videos are going, and I just end up becoming very confused. I'm not prepared for what if Zuko never became good. I'm not prepared for what if Aang never ran away. I'm not prepared for what if Katara was the fucking Avatar. I'm not prepared for any of these videos right now, man. I'm just not. I'm, like, trying to figure out, like, how the fuck this shit was, like, I'm trying to figure out how the fuck this shit was allowed. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. Okay, like, I'm gonna play. Let me play some music real quick. Let me, like, no. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. That was just bad.